When it comes to budgeting, it might be easiest in your operation to have the person who is responsible for the revenue and expenses of a different area of your business also be responsible for budgeting for that area of the business. In CenterPoint, we allow you to create separate budgets for the different areas of your business and then pull all of those budgets together to create one whole company or entity budget. In my database that I'm working with here, I happen to be working with CenterPoint for Agriculture, and the company that I'm working with is a farm. On our farm, we have one person or one manager who is responsible for the crop operation. And so he's going to be entering in all of the revenue and costs associated with raising crops into one budget. We also have a livestock manager who is going to be entering in all of the revenue and costs associated with raising livestock into another budget. And then finally, we have our accounting manager, who is our best resource for entering in all of those overhead expenses and maybe even some overhead revenues into another budget. But eventually, we want to pull those together. So to create that budget that pulls all those separate budgets together, we're going to go to Setup and Budgets. Here are all of our separate budgets that have already been created for crops, cattle, and for overhead. And I'm going to click New to create a new one that pulls them all together. And I'm going to call this my CenterPoint Farms budget. For those of you using our fund accounting product, the company is equal to a fund, so we can only have one company or one fund in a budget at a time. I'm going to select the date range for the budget, and the budget we were working with was for 2024. So I'm going to select my date range as 1/1 of 24 to 12/31 of 24. Before I click OK to draw up this budget, I want to select to import other budgets. So I'm going to click the Add button, and we'll see those other budgets listed there, and I can import them one at a time. So I'm going to start with my cattle budget. Then I'm going to click Add again, and I'm going to add my crops budget. And I'll click Add one more time, and I'm going to select my overhead budget. And then I'm going to click OK. And when I click OK, it's going to bring the information from those other budgets into my new budget. I could still add information to this budget that wasn't in any of those other budgets if I wanted to. But you'll notice here that I have some of my revenue associated with livestock. I have my revenue associated with crops that came from my livestock budget. The other crop information came from my crop budget. And then underneath expenses, you'll also see that I had information that pulled in from my overhead, things like my insurance expense or my utilities expenses and repairs expense pulled in from my overhead budget. Now, there might come a time where you update one of those other budgets. Maybe the crops manager updated some of the figures that he had in the crops budget. To make sure that that information gets reflected in this budget, you can go to File and to Properties. And that's going to bring back up that screen that we saw when we first created the budget. Down at the bottom, if information had been changed in my crops budget, I could highlight the crops budget, and if the information had been changed, then the update button would be enabled. Mine is disabled because the information in that budget is matching what's in this budget right now. But if it had changed, I could click the update button, and that would update the information in this budget with the information that was in my crops budget. I can also use this screen to remove a budget from this budget or add in an additional budget. I'm going to click OK. And like I said before, you could continue adding more information into this budget and add in figures that weren't in either of those or any of those budgets that we had imported.